What's going on, guys? It's Clade. Today I wanted to talk about Destiny 2 and a lot of issues that are kind of surrounding the game. It's clear that Destiny has some issues, with everyone recommending a Destiny 3. There's only one thing on my mind. If Bungie cannot fix these issues right now in Destiny 2, who's to say that they're going to fix them in a Destiny 3 or farther down the line? With the release of the Frontiers articles that they released about a few days ago, Bungie has now put themselves in the perfect position to fix these issues, or at least the issues that are creating the most problems for the game. If they don't fix these issues in this release, why would we have any faith that these issues will be fixed in a different release? Whether that's Destiny 3, a long-awaited sequel, or continuing Destiny 2's journey, which Bungie seems very, very keen on. These two issues that Destiny currently face are difficulty and incentive. Before I explain these issues and how Apollo can eventually fix these issues, you've probably named about 5 or 10 different issues that you can think of about Destiny. You can probably think of power creep, monetization, innovation, the seasonal structure, update structure, gameplay formula, a lot of things. I can definitely promise you, if you watch this video, you'll understand my perspective and understand why that these two issues are more important than any other issue that this game faces. That's not to put down the other issues in the game, but if these two issues are addressed, it can help the game more and bring players back to the game than any other issue being solved will do. You can fix the power creep, you can fix the innovation, but if you don't fix these two issues, Destiny 2 isn't going to go anywhere and isn't going to surprise or bring back players that want to keep playing every single day. To get started on these two issues, let's talk about difficulty. This is not from a top player perspective, a day one raider that plays every single day and wishes that every single piece of content was a day one contest mode. This comes from a more casual perspective. This comes from someone who has played since Destiny came out and has seen the progression and has kind of understood what made Destiny 1, Forsaken, and other infamous content drops fun to play. Now, if I'm talking about difficulty as a core issue for Destiny, you can probably already guess my stance. The game is way too easy. Now, I'm not asking for the game to become a GM Nightfall, but the base game content is way too easy. Ever since Destiny 2 has launched, every single update introduces power creep. And it has to introduce power creep in order to keep players interested, because why would I grind for new gear if the gear I already have is viable? Bungie has had no other solution for this but to just keep making things more powerful and creeping power creep as far as it could possibly go. We've went from having snipers and special weapons in the heavy slot, having double primaries, to having prismatic hunters with 2 perk exotic capes, walking around with enhanced perks, with synergy with every single class in the game. It's gotten really insane. With all this power creep in the game, the enemies in the game and the AI hasn't caught up with us at all. The rewards keep getting better, the difficulty keeps getting easier, and the bar just keeps getting lower for the difficulty. I can't remember the last time I've heard from Bungie about the AI getting an update or enemy health getting an increase. The only thing that we tend to hear about Destiny in terms of patch notes is us, the player, the Guardian, getting buffed, getting nerfed, but we never hear anything about the combatants we're actually fighting against. Playing through any activity in Destiny that is not a raid or a GM Nightfall, even though those are starting to get power crept very heavily, is too easy. Destiny is starting to become aim labs. You go into a strike and it is literally point and shoot. You go into a patrol, it is point and shoot. There is no reason to think about anything beyond pulling the trigger. And unfortunately, with how crazy build crafting has gotten and weapons in general has gotten, that's all the game has become. Playing a seasonal activity most of the time is you don't need to think about a build. You don't need to think about your positioning as a player. You are never going to get punished for your mistakes, and you're never going to have to put more thought into the game than where you're aiming your gun. This, in my opinion, is a very big problem for Destiny. Specifically, I think about Destiny 1 when it comes to this issue, because Destiny 1 felt really punishing. I remember playing heroic strikes, nightfalls with certain burns. The game felt really punishing. And I think the reason why Destiny 1 felt so good in those aspects is because those core activities were a huge part of the game. The point I'm trying to make is that the activities that we're supposed to be playing every single day is too easy. And this hurts seasonal content and new updates, because when seasonal content and new updates begs to bring you back to older activities, for example, go do a lost sector, go do an old strike, go explore this patrol zone that we've seen many times in episode 1, it's not interesting. It's never been interesting because it's just point and shoot. Enemies don't deal damage to you. Enemies won't bother to kill you. You'll never die in Destiny. The most things that you die to is environmental damage, which has even been nerfed too. I'm not complaining about that, by the way. But the difficulty in Destiny has gone down. Bungie actually tried to fix this back in Season of the Seraph by introducing the -5 power cap, and they did the same thing in Lightfall while making the patrol zone -5 power cap. In my opinion, this was the perfect thing that Destiny needed. The seasonal activity felt a little bit harder. It didn't feel too difficult. It didn't feel, in my opinion, it didn't feel difficult at all, but it made you think about the environment that you were in. It made you actually think about using a build. Something that Destiny desperately needs is just harder difficulty. When everything is point and shoot, you don't need to think about anything, and the gameplay is very bland, especially when this is consistent throughout the entire player experience from the very first mission. The difficulty never changes, and it never will. All difficulty options in Destiny, expert level, Nightfalls, master raids, are non-match made, which heavily excludes a large portion of the community, because going through that one step to do an LFG is a big jump for many players to make. Some people, it's as simple as some people just don't want to bother to matchmate. It's easier to just click on the activity and immediately load in. The difficulty being this low makes the game all around more boring and removes levels from the game. If you're a new player and you're just getting into the game, the very first mission that you play, you won't need to progress any further than that. Yes, you can go after loot, but beyond the first exotic that you get, why would you need to get another exotic? The only reason you would need to actually get more loot is to do a hard Nightfall. Even raids today and raid carries don't really require new players to go out and get anything, because the truth is they don't need to get anything because the game is way too easy, and Bungie has consistently failed at trying to make the game harder because the community cannot bear to make the game any harder. The problem is the community cannot bear raising the bar of the difficulty, but will only play for weapons that continue to lower that bar. And this is a big problem because the game itself is just uninteresting playing the game. Bungie has now defaulted on enemy density, which is starting to turn the game into Warframe. Big numbers of enemy equals difficulty now, and that's a big problem for the game because the game just depends on how fast can you kill all these enemies that don't shoot back, that don't do damage to you, and aren't a threat to you at all. Destiny needs some form of difficulty back in the base game, whether that's heroic strikes, going back to patrols being -5. They need difficulty in the game. The game is boring without it. Any quest that requires you to go play a strike playlist or do a core activity is boring because it's too easy. The whole game is too basic and it's too easy. New players will never have the feeling that so many players back in Destiny 1 had, and that's, I need better gear. You don't need better gear in Destiny 2. You don't need better gear in Destiny 2. You can defeat the entire game, play all the raids, and do everything outside of maybe Nightfalls with blue armor. And that's a problem. If the game was difficult, it would help new players actually get more engaged with the game because they would want to understand build crafting. They would want to know a build. Only if they're looking at one YouTube video, copy that build, and use that build for the rest of eternity, that is still more engaging than not using any build at all. The difficulty also being so low hurts build crafters in general, because you're never going to see your build succeed outside of very hard content that is sometimes raises the bar too high, like GMs or mastered raids and dungeons, to the point where you just want to see your build succeed in normal content. Problem is you can't. Enemies die too quickly. You can't get the buffs right. Game is just too simple. It's too basic, it's too easy. Enemies don't shoot back, and the AI hasn't been updated in 5 years. Enemies need a health buff and a damage buff. They need to fight back, and we need to actually feel their presence in the game. The difficulty being like this makes the entire game feel like get to point A to point B and claim your rewards. That's it. Gameplay is becoming very dwindled and feels honestly like shit because it's just too easy. The difficulty today is in the ground. Playing strikes feels like aim labs. There's no threat to you as a player, and the enemies don't have enough health to even use a build, let alone thinking about having one. Incentive is the next big issue that I have with Destiny. The main point of incentive killing Destiny, if you think about the core love of Destiny, what made Destiny so unique, especially Destiny 1 and the early days of Destiny 1, you'll think about Vault of Glass and getting your first Gallahorn, or the fact that Xur sold the Gallahorn and many people didn't buy it. Loot is what makes Destiny Destiny. Exotics, god rolls, and good looking legendary gear have, in my opinion, are the backbone of Destiny. Destiny 1, we can see this in a perfect way. People chased after after god rolls day after day and chased to upgrade them and make them as good as possible. People chased after exotics. The feeling of getting Icebreaker to drop from your Nightfall and Rise of Iron, the feeling of getting a Galahorn after opening a chest in the Vault of Glass, those feelings unfortunately don't exist in Destiny 2 anymore. Anyone that played Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 when Forsaken came out and that spent a good amount of time can admit that god rolls are mostly the backbone of Destiny as a whole. Feeling of grinding for them, getting the god roll, finally getting the roll you want, getting different rolls, unique rolls on the way is, in my opinion, the core idea of Destiny and what makes the game so much fun. The gameplay is a big thing along with that, but if there isn't any good loot at the end of the gameplay, why would I play the activity to begin with? The coil is the perfect example of this. The coil is arguably one of the best activities in Destiny 2's history and had the best amount of rewards in Destiny's history. But the problem is the rewards themselves, the guns themselves didn't matter. Why is that? And that's because those rewards were craftable. When you have crafting in seasons, and we've had crafting in seasons for over 2 years now, every single update feels like a chore. You're not going to farm your god rolls. It's pretty much been removed from the game. The only time you're going to farm god rolls is in raids and dungeons, which, congratulations Bungie, are not farmable. The only source of god roll content that you regularly put in the game is not farmable. So then let's look to what is farmable. The crafted items, your seasonal items, your episodic items, but all of those are craftable. So you don't need to go out and get a god roll. The only thing that you have to do is just get your red borders. This makes every single season that comes out a chore. You play the season, you log in, you get your god roll. You play the season, a new season comes out, you play the new activity, you play it once or twice, you get your red borders, and you'll wait until the next week to get your new weekly red border. There is zero reason to keep playing after that because the whole grind is just getting red borders. There's no sitting down and playing the game over and over again to get your god roll. And even getting god rolls in these seasonal activities doesn't feel good because at the end of the day, the god roll doesn't matter anymore because I can just craft it. And crafting is arguably better even with the fact that non-crafted weapons can get enhanced perks now. But why would I focus and be excited about that god roll when I can just get my red borders, craft it, have unlimited access to the entire perk pool? It's just an overall better gun. There's two problems with this system. One, you're not farming for god rolls anymore, which in my opinion is the most important part about Destiny. Two, it makes the game feel like a chore. You log in daily to just get your red borders and then you get out. And actually a third reason is it's too accessible. I don't have to play a lot to get a god roll. I don't have to spend any time in the game to get arguably the best weapon in the game. I don't. All I have to do is log in weekly, collect some red borders, which the red border system is incredibly boring and sometimes even tedious. And that's it. I have the best weapon in the game. And that makes every single season boring. Evidence that I have to back this up is Into the Light. Onslaught had non-craftable rewards and shinies. People spent hours and hours for a month grinding, trying to get shinies, getting god rolls, and even Dado himself said that he's never even had a second thought or a good thought about getting some of those drops. He enjoyed getting shinies, and so did the rest of us. The biggest thing that separated Onslaught for the rest of the game's updates for the last 3 years is that they weren't crafted, and you were chasing rolls, and you spent hours doing them. In my opinion, Onslaught is a very repetitive activity, but the rewards and the incentive to chase a god roll really made the activity shine. So now we have two things with Destiny. Difficulty is too easy, and crafting makes the game really boring to play. Difficulty and crafting make the game pretty much a snooze fest to play. The gameplay isn't fun, and the rewards to get are boring because you can just craft them. You might be asking, how does something like Codename Frontiers or Apollo fix these issues, or possibly can fix these issues in the future? And there are two solutions for these two issues that can make the game 100 times better. These solutions are the portal screen and weapon and armor tiers. Portal is the solution for the difficulty. What the portal is going to do in the future of the game in Codename Apollo, it's going to combine all the activities into the game into one new screen. Portal will have solo ops, fireteam ops, pinnacle ops, crucible, and events, and all in one section with hopefully all customizable difficulties. This will in turn make the game harder, giving us sets of rules, gameplay, debuffs, buffs, maybe if you want to make the game a little easier for yourself or you want to try new builds, and also give you access to a plethora of rewards. The harder you go, the more rewards you're going to get, and it's going to show you that. In my opinion, this can potentially fix the game as long as this applies to all the core activities in the game and they all have matchmaking, typically how the game works today. What would kill this immediately is if these activities aren't actually difficult in any way and they don't have matchmaking. Me as a player, in order to make the game slightly harder or slightly more interesting, in my opinion, I have to go then do the extra steps to join an LFG. In my opinion, it's not worth it. This has potential, hopefully, to raise the bar of the game tremendously and hopefully give access for more hardcore players to play things that are harder than GM content. If Bungie can pull this off right, this is the perfect fix for difficulty in Destiny, especially if this applies for all their major updates going forward, or quote-unquote new seasons. This can make the game automatically more engaging, and also potentially, if they can handle the reward section correctly, make older content actually useful. Think about the potential that this can reach. Think about maybe there's a Halloween event and they add Halloween candy to these reward sections. Now, if you want to go play Beyond Light content, Shadowkeep content, anything, you can play that at a difficulty that fits your play style and contribute to the event. Maybe you can add special modifiers, like for example, a Halloween event, like I was just saying, you can add, maybe spiderweb modifier, a jump scare modifier in order to access the event loot. And then you can just play any activity that you want to play. This can make, if done correctly and utilized correctly, the whole game a million times better. It will bring back Destiny. You can bring back all the core activities and actually make them useful. A problem that we have with seasons is that every time we update the game, nothing stays, nothing sticks. Onslaught being the only exception to that because it was a major update. Onslaught is going to stick. In my opinion, that's perfect for the game. Now you can make everything stick and everything relevant. If I want to go farm nightmare hunts for my new event, or to get exotics, or to get a certain gun, maybe they can put different guns in the loot pools at certain times. The possibility with the reward sections and the difficulty making the game more engaging and having better rewards to go for, with the possibility of event rewards or modifier specific rewards. If they want to do that with things like a Halloween event or a dawning event, you can get certain cookies if you have a snow modifier on or something. It has endless potential to make this truly feel like an MMO experience. So not only does this new portal help the game feel more connected by putting it all in a hub, it makes the game, it gives difficulty back to the game and also creates new incentive. But here's the thing, this incentive won't exist if they don't fully utilize the reward section and if they don't change their idea of crafting. But Bungie has actually laid out the perfect opportunity to change crafting and change how viable it is in the game. Bungie is adding tiers to armor, with this example right here being Swordy tier 5 with more enhanced perks and hopefully some more options as well. This can easily make god rolls come back and the need to grind loot again instead of grinding red borders if crafting doesn't hit tier 5. Crafting should not be allowed to go to tier 5, and they need to make this happen. If crafting is just the same as the most powerful weapon, then crafting is still going to be crafting. You're not going to need to play your activities. All you're going to do is farm red borders, and that's going to be every single update for the rest of the game. We need to bring crafting. I'm not saying we should remove crafting from the game, but this gives the perfect opportunity to halt it. If crafting also can't go all the way to tier 5, this allows for people that don't want to spend the time getting god rolls to get their red borders, while a lot of the community that is deep into Destiny will be allowed to go farm difficult content, hopefully difficult content, in order to get the best of the best rewards, chasing that 1% grind. If crafting is on the same level as a tier 5, if tier 5 is the highest level, I'm just saying this as tier 5 is the highest level, if crafting is on the same pace as this and there's no need to get the tier 5 weapon, and unless there's no crafting at all, crafting is just going to be the core of the game still, which in my opinion is possibly one of the worst decisions Bungie's ever made. I truly believe that if crafting wasn't in the game, it would help the game tremendously. Player count would be double. Everything would be better because people would still be grinding for god rolls. In my opinion, player exhaustion and player burnout would be much lower than we're seeing today because the core game is just log in, get get your red borders, get your buff for the season that gives you more red borders, and log out. Crafting is too powerful, it's too boring, it's bland, and it goes directly against the backbone of the game, which was chasing god rolls, and it was fun. A lot of people don't have time to chase god rolls, so a lot of people are in favor of crafting, but by supporting crafting and having this idea that every weapon should be crafted and every update and all these different things, you're directly hurting the playtime of the game. Players would play the game 10 times more, especially content creators, old veterans, even me, would play the game 10 times more if I actually had something to go after that wasn't a red border. The whole red border system, I can't stress this enough, I probably said it 15 times, is boring. It's boring, bland, and shouldn't be in the game, especially compared to being in Destiny 1 and just farming shit over and over and over again to get a god roll. Even in Forsaken, you did that shit when they introduced random rolls back. You would just farm and farm and farm and farm to get a god roll. Whether you like it or not, if you're a new player, you have to understand that god rolls define Destiny, and in my opinion, are one of the most important parts of Destiny. It felt amazing getting rolls that you wanted to get. It felt cool getting more interesting rolls, and it just made the game more engaging. And along with having a harder difficulty in the gameplay that you're playing, with the activities that you're playing, the whole game would benefit. The thing is you can address monetization. You can keep innovating with cool ideas, maybe add a forge, maybe add space battles, turn the game into No Man's Sky. The game will never fully flourish until you go back to the same ideals, the same principles that old Destiny held up. We need difficulty, and I'm not saying to make, it's not even making it difficult. I shouldn't even be saying that. I shouldn't even be saying difficulty, because the game's not difficult. I'm not asking to make it difficult. I'm asking for the gameplay to be interesting. It's not. It's boring. The whole game's boring. It is point and aim and shoot. That's the whole game. It's point and shoot. There is no need to position yourself. There is no need to think about the enemy. There is no need to think about your loadout, to think about your build, to think about anything, because everyone falls over. Every single one falls over. Almost every single encounter I do, even in dungeons and raids, are one phases. There's no need to, there's no difficulty. And along with that, when I'm playing these activities that have no difficulty, that aren't interesting, that make me feel like I'm playing aim labs, and the rewards that I'm chasing are basic red borders or god rolls that don't even matter. If I'm playing a dungeon and chasing god rolls, it doesn't fucking matter, because later down the line, there's going to be a crafted version of that roll that is going to be in 10 times better, just because it has a whole perk pool that I could automatically switch from. There are many other things said in this article, things about new gear, things about how they're addressing content, frontiers in general, but in my opinion, these two things caught my eye the most, because these two things, in my opinion, can fix the biggest issues that I've always had with this game. And I really hope this video kind of helps people understand that, because in my opinion, when I look at the community, it's a broken record. I want Destiny 3, there's no innovation, episodes are boring, seasons are boring, back to the same old slop. It's all just there's no brain activity. It's just the repeating shit every single time. People, for some reason, think a Destiny 3 fixed the game. A Destiny 3, in my opinion, is very interesting. I actually would really like to see one, but why would it be any different? Bungie is not getting good feedback, and I hope that somebody at Bungie ends up seeing this and really understands this, because there's so many issues with the game. I actually think it's fine, but there's so much like potential it can reach. And if these two issues aren't fixed, no other issue will help Destiny as much as these will. Fixing monetization won't fix it as this. Innovating more, doing whatever, power creep, the seasonal structure. You've tried a billion different times with seasonal structure. You're now trying 3 different things in a row. It's not gonna work unless you address difficulty. I just really hope people can kind of understand this perspective. There's a lot more I can say. I really don't want to make this a fucking hour-long video. I'm kind of just going to tiptoe in Destiny and give thoughts about different things. I have played this game through every single update since I was 7 years old. I am now 17. I want this game to succeed, but in my opinion, the community is so just rage bait bullshit. But yeah, that's it. I don't fucking know, bro. I need to shut up, and I got shit to do.